Inside the Arena is presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sportsbook.
Welcome to Inside the Arena, your source for everything off the ice, off the court, and outside the field of play. With your hosts, KOMO Sports Director Niko and KOMO Senior Reporter Chris Daniels.
Episode 48, my man.
How about that?
Yeah.
Wow. Just like, and maybe it'll be as great as Super Bowl 48. And what I did there?
Yeah, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
And we kind of started this up talking about so long ago, 48 weeks ago, talking about NBA expansion. But this week, we're talking about a different type of expansion.
Yeah, really exciting news, right? And I think that it's something, obviously, we talked about quite a bit on this show. The fact that leagues and teams want to continue to expand into Seattle. On the surface, you're like, well, are there enough fans? And the answer is, as we saw when they did that tour back in the wintertime, a resounding absolutely. And I can't wait to see how well things go here. And, I'm really excited. That's 15 dates at Climate Pledge Arena.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be great, which we've already seen how awesome of a hockey venue, of course, it is with the Kraken. So all good news. Now, here's the question, Chris. What's the nickname going to be? What's the mascot, so to speak?
The Evergreens, maybe?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. By the way, everybody, we're talking about the Professional Women's Hockey League that is coming to Seattle, the PWHL. They're going to be in green and cream.
I like that.
So I'm going to go with Evergreens.
That fits for green and cream, yeah.
Yeah, but we'll talk more about it. You're going to hear from the top two executives who were in Seattle this week about why the league is now coming to Seattle. We've had Beth Knox from the Seattle Sports Commission on the show, openly talking about how the city was trying to recruit an expansion franchise in the PWHL, and you're going to hear the answer on why they've decided to do this now, along with Vancouver. We'll get in depth about it all later, but first, we always like to touch them all, right? The four corners.
Absolutely.
What's good? What's bad? Off the ice, off the court, off the field of play, and boy, oh boy, is there a lot to talk about this week.
Yeah, it's hard for me to pick a positive here.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with and honorable mention, at least for me, could easily go with the Mariners, the way they've rebounded. Baseball's a long season, but right now they have certainly captured the imagination of our city, and I hope that goes all the way into the fall because when the Mariners are rolling, there's nothing quite like it. But I'll go with my positive first corner here being the Seahawks, and certainly we don't dive into the X's and O's very much on this show, but I will say that you don't have to really take a deep dive to see. Oh, we had fun with that last week.
Oh, Bill Fesh.
Number one pick, Bill Fesh. Wow. No, but I think that, listen, you look at those 11 picks, you look at the guys they took on days 1 and day 2. They've universally nailed this thing. It is rare that you have a fan base as passionate as 12s, almost universally praising a front office like they are in this situation. They made sure thing kind of picks like Ray Zabel. They took risks with huge potential and upside in Jalen Milroe. I'm really excited about that. What could be? I mean, that's the kind of guy that can alter the course of the franchise and league, quite frankly, should he hit his potential, which is a question mark. But you're not throwing him into the fire, which is great. He has a couple of years to learn if need be. So I love it. And I also want to give a shout out to, if you want to get off the X and O's, year in and year out at that event, the Seahawks PR team really makes it easy. I mean, within minutes of the player being picked, they're on the phone with us. You're asking them anything you need to know. And so by the time that KOMO News comes on right after, we've heard from the guys they picked. So shout out to Seahawks PR. It's a whole group of them over there. I don't want to leave anybody off the list. There's a whole group of them that really take a good job. So Seahawks pick, the facilities over there, all my positive of the four corners.
Well, and I think they listened to the fans this year. A lot of fans were clamoring like Clara Peller back in the day in those Wendy's ads. Where's the beef?
Yep.
And they got some beef on the offensive line. That's an old school reference for anybody listening or watching at home. Go Google the Wendy's ads for the day.
Yeah.
Where's the beef? They definitely got that. And I think, that's definitely a positive off the field as we see those guys now get integrated into the community. I think there was just way too many positive news. I'm gonna break the rules. I'm gonna pass second a couple of times. Is that okay?
Like you're gonna round second. There's gonna be a throw. So you're like, oh crap, I got to go back. But then the throw's gonna be off the mark, so you're gonna cross again.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, because there's so much. There's so much that's going on. Okay, just in the last week, Pac-12 media deal for 2025. we not only have a deal where the Oregon State Beavers and Washington State Cougars are going to be back on KUNS, the CW, Seattle CW, our sister station in Seattle. We also know the kickoff times.
Yes, that's huge.
Which it seems like the last time that happened was 20 years ago. It hasn't been 20 years ago, but we know the kickoff times for all the Cougar home games and all the Beaver home games, and we know they will be on the CW. In addition, we were at Region Ready this week, which is run by the Seattle Sports Commission, talking about whether the region is prepared for multiple events, also announcing new events. At that event, Athletes Unlimited, professional softball coming to the Huskies softball stadium in Montlake later on this July. Also the AVP, beach volleyball. It's coming back after all these years. We used to see it on the shores of Lake Sammamish. The AVP will be coming back to Redmond and Marymore Park in 2026. These are all positive things off the ice, off the court, off the field of play. In addition to everything we're talking about with Professional Women's Hockey League, it was a newsworthy week when it comes to sports in our region.
Oh, and I think we talk about often in the show, it's not just, the Mariners, the Seahawks, the top tier, big four pro sports. There's a lot of things going on here. And then just highlights the sports fan in our area. And how great is it? I mean, like, you really look at this top to bottom, all corners of the state, even when you're talking about this, Pac-12 deal. It's really special to see.
Well, what don't you like?
I hate to say I told you so, and you already agreed with me. So I'm not scolding my guy, Chris Daniels. Yeah. I'm actually that guy that, like, when I'm on the phone with a customer service rep and I'm like really angry and I'm like, and you did this. And I'm like, well, not you personally, but your company did. Like, I always feel the need to clarify. They're like, I know, sir. But sometimes those customer service reps actually get angry with I didn't do anything. I'm like, I know you didn't. Right?
I've had those conversations.
Yeah. I'm like, no kidding. Yeah. I know you didn't mess up my whatever I'm talking about. Okay. Back on point.
Yeah.
What did I say last week about mock drafts?
You don't like them. They're going to be wrong.
They're wrong.
You're going to read them off.
You're going to read them off, and you're going to there's always all these quarterbacks are going to be taken in the first round. It never happens. And the example I used was 2022. And yet, what did we see? Bill loves that. Bill loves that button. You know who didn't hear that until day 3 was Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
And whatever, we could talk about the reasons all day. We could use a negative corner on the prank call because that was all bogus. But what I'm trying to say for this is, I mean, I would say if you looked, Chris, and I know you did, I'd put a rough estimate about 90+% of mock drafts out there had him in the first round.
Yeah.
And probably 8 of the remaining 10% had him in the second round. And neither one of those was even close. That's not a knock on Shedeur. It's just to say, these guys who put these mocks up there, they don't really know. They know some things. But this idea that it's become this whole phenomenon, like, take it easy. If you want to have fun reading it, but don't put much stock in it. And also, don't prank the poor kid. My God.
No, that guy. We could do a whole episode on that.
Yeah. Well, and then you see there was NFL put fines out there.
Yeah.
$250,000 on the Falcons, $100,000 on the defensive coordinator of the Falcons, who left his iPad out for his child to then get the number off and prank. Yeah.
Well, I think Shedeur Sanders is going to be a case study for what happens off the field.
Sure.
I think what people have been talking about in the days since the draft is Deion Sanders, his dad, and Shedeur had been acting like it was fait accompli that he was going to be drafted in the first round, didn't show up for meetings, wasn't prepared for meetings. This is all stuff that happens away from the field that likely cost him millions of dollars.
Yeah, because if you look at the game, like, he's a talented guy.
Yeah.
He's not a 5th round guy when you look at his tape, but it's been clear through many reports that it was the off the field stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever that may be, meetings, like you said, preparation. So that was interesting. The prank was a negative, and so was the overabundance of quarterbacks in mock drafts taking early, because as usual, it was wrong.
All right. Well, I'll close it home. I'll bring it home with the only shred of negativity. I just think it's been a really positive week for the region. It is the Blue Jays Mariners ticket sales right now. Bear with me for a second. We did a story on KOMO News about this, how local businesses are teaming up to offer a Canadian discount for Mother's Day weekend in Seattle because of the downturn in visitors from Canada to the United States, and specifically citing the ticket sales for the Blue Jays series against the Mariners, which is coming up here in a little bit more than a week. They are not selling like they've sold in the past. If you look at Ticketmaster, there are plenty of good seats still available, and that is a series that in the past several years, at least a decade, has been close to a sellout.
Oh, yeah.
35,000 people a night. We've done stories on KOMO about all the Canadian visitors. Well, they are right now not planning on coming to Seattle. So this group of business owners now offering the 30% discount, which puts the Canadian dollar on par. They are saying you show up with your passport, maybe you say A, and they'll give you a 30% discount because they are so concerned that weekend is going to be different than it has been in the past because of all the geopolitical issues at play.
Yeah, I the story I like to tell about that, I think it was 2022. I had family come to visit Seattle, and they'd never been in the Space Needle. And I get to the Needle, and it was a 2-hour wait just to get in. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And, I can go on my dinner break next door to KOMO and go up in the Needle for a dinner break, which is, I don't do it often, but it's kind of a cool thing to be able to do. And I was like, what the heck is going on? And then 2 days later, I went and walked right through it, and Blue Jays series.
Blue Jays.
It's not just tickets at T-Mobile Park, as you know. It's all the bars and restaurants in Seattle. So hopefully those tickets start moving. Hopefully things start to get a little bit more normal in that regard.
Well, according to the Mariners, this is the earliest that they played the Blue Jays since 2011 at home.
Yeah.
There was also a bit of a attendance that was skewed by the pandemic in 2021, and you remember all of that with how tickets were limited. But we've looked at the numbers as well, and it's always been a draw. According to the Mariners, the last time they played in May was 2010.
Yeah.
And that was in the 20s. You know this as well as anybody else with the weather, that April and May always lower attendance at Mariners games than the rest of the year. So they are suggesting that perhaps weather is an issue here. But still, boy, those geopolitical issues, I think, based on what just happened in the Canadian election, we won't get into it too deep here, but there's an argument that is causing a factor for the Mariners. Hey, how about something better? Supersonic Minute. We don't have a lot of news on this week. We do have the air horn is still working. Not a lot of news on expansion with the NBA or any sort of movement. We talked about the comments that Adam Silver made to Pat McAfee a couple of weeks ago. The only positive I'll just point out, it may not be on a lot of people's radar here. A Seattle kid, Doug Christie, Rainier Beach High School. He was the one who started up the whole summer league, what Jamal Crawford would later take over, the Pro-Am, and bring NBA players to town. That was Doug Christie who did that. Doug Christie ended up starting his life in Sacramento as a broadcaster. He has been the interim head coach, and it looks like he's going to be the full-time head coach for the Sacramento Kings with a new contract down there. And it's just great to see a local guy who did all sorts of work at Rainier Beach High School and really started getting those fires burning in the summer here in Seattle. He's getting a full-time job in Sacramento. Yeah,
it's really cool to see. And what a job he did there, right? So you have to give him props. And while we're on the Rainier Beach thing, let's give a shout out to Josh Connerly Jr., the Oregon tackle from Rainier Beach High, first-round pick of the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, we had a couple local guys.
Yeah, we had a few. Emeka got, from Stellicum, and yeah, it was really cool to see that. Of course, Cam Ward by association with the Cougs, and it was cool to see Warren Moon, Husky and Coug on the same stage at the same time, give Cam blessing to wear number 1, even if he wasn't a Titan, but same franchise.
I was just disappointed that the ESPN crew didn't try to pronounce Stillicum.
Yeah, it's not that hard as far as Washington towns go.
Mike Greenberg had problems with Puyallup last year.
Yes, I do remember that. Did you see the latest episode of The Last of Us where she chuckled at Snoqualmie Pass?
Yes, we won't. No spoilers.
That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying.
No spoilers. Snoqualmie got a shout out, though.
Snoqualmie got a shout out.
And they pronounced it right.
And there was some folks not happy with an inaccuracy of where a mileage sign was in relation to the part of town it was in.
Yes. No spoilers, but if you've been living under a rock, Seattle is prominently featured in that show. Hey, you know who else is prominently featured?
Who's that?
In Seattle? The new women's hockey league team.
I was going to show you my KOMO in The Last of Us, but I can't find it.
All right. Well, let's talk hockey here. After the break, you're going to hear from 2 top executives with the Professional Women's Hockey League who were in Seattle for a big press conference talking about why now, why they're putting a team here and what it means just kind of in the mix of professional sports in Seattle. You will hear from Amy and Jana right after the break.
Luxury awaits at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, where comfort meets elegance. This summer, experience breathtaking cascade views, world-class dining, and play your favorite games. Elevate your next getaway by combining effortless style with the utmost relaxation. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel.
We grow to 8 teams. We're now across the entirety of 2 countries. We cover off 2 coasts. So a very proud day for our young league, and we could not be more thrilled to be here. First, I just would like to thank a bunch of people that are here sharing this day with us. Samantha Holloway, we were here a few months ago under very different circumstances with 12,000 fans enjoying our games. I can't thank you enough in your organization for your hospitality. Your team is wonderful, so thank you. Mayor Harrell, thank you for coming today. Your vibrant city has welcomed us with warm arms. We cannot thank you enough for being part of today. It means a ton to us. Acting County Executive Braddock, I'm looking where everybody's sitting. As the first woman to serve this role, you embody exactly what the PWHL is all about, and that is breaking barriers and inspiring generations. Beth Knox, from the day we met several months ago, you have just put your arms around us, and I could not thank you enough for just the warm welcome, how much you've taught me about Seattle in the last couple months. I cannot thank you enough. And Zoe Harris, I know you're out there somewhere, but your passion for bringing women's hockey here is, I'm sure, a big reason why we are here, and your energy is palpable, and it's been wonderful to meet you the last few times we've been in Seattle, so thank you. Also, a few people that are here as well. Todd Lewicki, thank you so much. Tim Lewicki, and Nick Vierowick, I think you're here somewhere as well. So a lot of people really responsible for us being here today. And I think what's really important too is when this league started several years ago, and you'll hear more from Jana Hefford, who's really one of the main forces why we're here, there was a vision, and I can't thank you all enough for believing in our shared vision and what we bring to the sports community. 4 months ago, we were here, 12,000 fans, 12,600 to be exact, and they welcomed us with open arms and really, really, really loud cheers. For those of you in the audience that day and you were here, thank you for your support. I appreciate it. I think one of the big reasons that we are here, and Skylar mentioned it, is because of your unwavering passion for women's sports. And we stand here today on the shoulders of many who've come before us, and I would like to thank those women because they've made a huge difference in this city. So first to Karen Bryant, who, KB, the OG, is out here in the audience somewhere. She brought the Seattle Storm to life and built a legacy of winning and championships and set the bar for the rest of us who work in the WNBA. And then Alicia Valavanis, you came in, you took that torch, and you have built this organization into just this stalwart in the league, and it's unbelievable what you've done. And I know, as someone who worked in the WNBA, we all looked at the outside, looking into Seattle, and jealous of what you've built here. And so thank you for leading the way. To Storm owners Lisa Brummel and Ginny Gilder, you guys are the first women-only owned organization. That's pretty freaking cool, right? And you have a vision, and you've set that vision, and you've shown other teams, and you've showed other organizations what is possible, and that's pretty cool. And again, everybody's on the outside wanting to be Seattle. So thank you both for leading the way. Another woman I admire who's fairly new to the Seattle market, but Courtney Carter out here somewhere running the business for the Reign. And trust me, if you are a soccer fan, your team is in great hands. So we could not be more proud. We could not be more proud to stand on the shoulders of KB, of Alicia, of Courtney, of Ginny, and Lisa. We're here because of you, and you've made this possible for us, so thank you for paving the way. It's pretty cool. And I will tell you, you've built what I believe is the capital of women's sports right here in Seattle. So I guess I'm nuts and bolts, and all of you could pay me later. I'll be around back with my hands. One of the big questions I've gotten asked throughout this process is why Seattle? Why Vancouver? How are you choosing? I think Seattle's pretty obvious. How cool for our players to be able to call Climate Pledge Arena home How cool for our players to be able to practice and train at the Kraken Community Iceplex, two of the top facilities in North America. So infrastructure really important for us. We look at partnership opportunities. When you look at the sponsorship support and the partnership support in the Seattle community, we know that we are going to have these partners come out and support us. Youth hockey is huge. Look at what the Kraken have done for youth hockey in the 4 years they've been here. We look to help build and grow that momentum, and I love that the Kraken see us as additive to help do that in this market. And we want more kids, boys and girls, on the ice. And speaking of the Kraken, how lucky are we to be able to partner and work with a team that has shown how to launch a team, has been very much in terms of the tops of how a team is run and how do you market, how do you build out a brand, how do you fill a building. So very, very lucky that we get to work with the key members of the Kraken and help launch our team here in partnership with them. And of course the fans. I've talked about Seattle being the home of women's sports, and so we are looking forward to those 12,000 fans and all of Seattle coming out to see our games. And lastly, but not least, is that we really hope Seattle and Vancouver develop a pretty cool rivalry. Yeah. So while today sort of marks the end of a journey in terms of building a formal relationship, the fun is just beginning. We're going to bring you the best hockey you will ever see in the world. And also, I think Skylar alluded to it as well, but I believe this will be the first time that two professional women's sports teams will share a building, and there's no better place to hit that milestone than right here in Seattle. So I think that's a pretty cool fact as well.
We're excited to write the next chapter for women's hockey here in Seattle, but we know there's a rich history, so we're not starting from scratch. Women's hockey roots run deep here. More than a century ago, 1921, the Seattle Vamps skated to Vancouver and defeated the hometown Amazons 1-0. Vancouver ultimately won the championship series, but today, with Seattle and Vancouver both a part of the PWHL, we're not just honoring that history, we're reigniting it. A new chapter of this Pacific Northwest rivalry begins now. Seattle has long proven it knows how to support its teams, with heart, with pride, with volume. We saw that on full display during the takeover tour here, as Amy mentioned, 12,600 people in this building. The crowd was on its feet, youth players wearing jerseys. The energy was undeniable, and that moment told us everything we needed to know, which is that this city is ready. We're excited to make the Kraken Community Iceplex our training ground, as well as this arena, the home for games for our team here. This is a cutting-edge facility that our players will proudly call home, and we couldn't be more excited. Huge thank you to the team at both venues who have made this a really great process and will help us bring this to life. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank some of the other speakers that are here, who are leaders, and their presence here means a lot to us. So Mayor Harrell, appreciate you being here today. County Executive Braddock, Samantha Holloway, Todd Lywicki, who Todd and I have known each other for a number of years, and so excited to be able to do this with you and your team. And of course, Skylar Diggins, who had to leave, but we are all big fans of the WNBA, of the Storm, and it's so exciting for us to join the family and this community that you've all created here. This expansion marks a major step forward, not just for our league, but for the game as a whole. It means more opportunities for elite athletes to keep playing. It expands our footprint into a region hungry for professional women's hockey, and it gives young players in this community something powerful to aspire to. Looking ahead, there's a lot to be excited about. Each team will play a 30-game schedule next season with a total of 120 regular season games, giving fans more opportunities to watch the best players in the world compete. And of course, with expansion comes new opportunities for players. Before we welcome in a new class of players in a entry draft in Ottawa on June 24th, we'll hold an expansion draft in mid-June. This will give our teams a chance to build competitive rosters from day one. We'll be sharing more specific details on the expansion draft format in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for that. To our board of directors and to Mark and Kimber Walter, thank you for believing in what women's hockey can be. Your investment continues to open doors, push boundaries, and create real lasting change. And to the fans, this team is yours. We can't wait for you to get to know the athletes that are going to wear your city's name. You'll see them at clinics, in schools, at community events, and on the ice, competing with skill, grit, and heart every single night. Seattle, we're thrilled to be here, and we can't wait to get started.
Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel's award-winning outdoor summer concert series is back. See amazing artists like Hanson, Austin Jenks, Melanie Fiona, and POD this summer overlooking the beautiful Snoqualmie Valley. Visit snowcasino.com for tickets. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel.
How about that?
So that is Amy Shear and Jana Hefford. Amy is the Executive Vice President of Business Operations, Jana, the hockey ops. That was one right after the other there from the press conference at Climate Pledge Arena. It's some interesting things to take out of that. We also heard from Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell, the point being made that Seattle now has 3 women's professional sports franchises that is unlike any other market in the country.
Pretty impressive.
Between the Reign, the Storm, and now this new team. The Kraken are not owning the team.
Okay.
That's one big thing that needs to be pointed out. This is a league that's a single entity owner, Mark and Kimbra Walter, the Walter Group behind the LA Dodgers and Chelsea FC, Billie Jean King involved with the league as well. So they own all 8 teams, including the new team in Vancouver. The Kraken are going to be helping out of the gate with some marketing and ticket sales. The new team will practice at the Kraken Community Iceplex, but they are essentially working with the Oakview Group here, which designed and helped to build and is operating Climate Pledge Arena to get what could be 15 or more dates on the calendar. They've worked out that deal. They've worked out a deal on where the team will train, but the Kraken are not owning the team, and this is now the 3rd year of the Professional Women's Hockey League. Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto, Boston, New York, Minnesota, Vancouver, and Seattle. Your 8 teams. And it's really, I mean, this was, as we heard from Beth on our show, they really were doing a test drive of a lot of different markets with the Takeover Tour back in January. They saw the crowd. I thought one stat that was brought up this week was interesting. Seattle had the 2nd highest performing market on social media. Vancouver was tops. So this league was looking at data. Who was interested from a social media perspective? Who was interested in the seats? And those were the metrics that really drew them to Seattle, working out the deal with the Kraken, with the Oakview Group, the proximity to Vancouver. So these 2 teams are going to be far west. There is a 8-year collective bargaining agreement already in place in terms of travel and lodging for the women who will be playing in this league. Expansion draft later on this year. So we'll know who will be playing for the team. Still a question of what the team could be named. Could just be PWHL Seattle.
I like where you're going with Evergreen.
Yeah.
You know, you could do, I don't know. There's so many cool things you can do in the Pacific Northwest with that. So I'm eager.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to be. I think it's a great name. The Sirens, the New York Sirens, has that double meaning, right?
Yeah.
You could have a police siren.
You could also have a hockey horn.
You could have a hockey horn.
Yeah.
It's a great name. They're not going to be called the Sirens, but this is, I think, exciting at a ground floor level, ground ice level.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
For this team to be here in Seattle, they'll probably start in November, December. Still a question of whether 15 dates or more. They might do a takeover tour. So hey, you might be able to go watch the Seattle team in Portland, or Vancouver and Seattle play in Portland. But Seattle won this bid over cities like Denver and Detroit and other Canadian cities that really had wanted to have a franchise. And it really does play into the idea of kind of propping up the Kraken as well. There is a long women's hockey history dating back to 1917. I had to look this up, Nico.
Okay.
The Seattle Hockeyettes members were wives of the Seattle Metropolitans of the Pacific Coast Hockey Association, a team that, oh, by the way, nobody has forgotten, was crowned the 1917 Stanley Cup champions.
Yeah, first American club.
So shout out to Zoe Harris. I was really happy to see her get some recognition at the press conference as well. I've dealt with Zoe for years. She's really been the top advocate for bringing a professional women's hockey team here. The Kraken had also, from day one, talked about bringing a professional women's hockey league team here. We even saw at the announcement back in 2018, in December of 2018, they brought a young girl on the stage wearing the Washington Wild jersey, said, hey, we're doing this for these young people and hope to bring women's hockey here as well. So we're finishing the story and starting the story at the same time. I think a lot of people, as we saw, excited about this announcement.
Yeah, we listen. So much excitement. You talked about the attendance at the Takeover Tour. We see how Jessica Campbell has become arguably the best story in all of hockey right here in Seattle. Has inspired so many young, not just girls but also boys. And certainly as those young people grow up, this will be more normal, is the hope. And the PWHL's arrival can only help in that regard. Well,
and my goodness, in terms of the world of hockey in Seattle, has there been anything going on in the last few weeks?
No, nothing at all. Nothing.
Boy,
slow spring. Keeping us busy, but we love it. And I'm telling you, next few years, hockey, not just with the arrival of PWHL Seattle, but the way the Kraken has kind of repositioned itself. Look out and see what happens.
Well, we don't know yet on ticket prices, season ticket packages. They are selling merch already online. So there is still going to be a lot to talk about with the PWHL officially, as we have suggested quite a bit on this show, an expansion franchise in Seattle.
David Lee, take us out, but hopefully soon we're talking about a new one.
You've been listening to Inside the Arena with Niko and Chris. Please subscribe on your favorite platform. Until next time.
Inside the Arena was presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sports book.